Good evening.
Good evening.
How's everybody? There's Kitty. All right, what time have y'all got? Better check my phone before we get started here. Well, good evening, everybody. Hope everybody's doing well and you're glad to be back. So this is Mels 603. These are what were previously the O and the O3 sections that have now been collapsed into one section. I think it'll probably be O3. I don't know if they will go in and move you from all into one shell or not, but we'll continue to operate as if you were just two separate classes. Let's see. So we've got Dr. Caton is on with us tonight, or I thought she was a minute ago. There she is, that she's moved. So Dr. Caton will be the coach for the O3 section. Y'all know me, I'm Dale Lamb, I'm the program coordinator. And so Dr. Caton will be your coach for the O3 section. I mean, for the O section, excuse me, and Dr. Maraglia is here somewhere. Doesn't have her camera on right now, but she's with us. She will be the coach for the O3 section. And so we're down to seven students in the O section and 10 in the O3. So we'll get started. We'll kind of introduce ourselves to one another tonight. Because we're putting y'all together, and so we'll have new folks. But my plan is that we will continue with existing teams. Can anybody see a problem with that? Do I need to make adjustment to teams? Anybody know of any reason why your teams can't stay together? All right, so teamwork is going to be big this semester, let me tell you. We're going to reduce the number of peer reviews. There won't be any video peer reviews, and you'll only peer review one of the tasks of one of your team members. You'll do that in, of course, through discussion board. But we'll have 4 case studies this semester, and they're pretty involved. And so if we look at our weekly schedule, and that's where we'll start tonight, and we'll get to our introductions in just a minute. So let me share my screen and get started. So if we look at our weekly schedule, and it's the only thing that I didn't pull up because I wanted to make sure you could find out where it is. Over here on the menu under weekly schedule, it has what we'll be doing every week. It has the discussion board activity. It has what our topics will be for the week. It has our case study weeks. And so on week 4, week 6, week 8, and week 10, which will actually be week 11, because we're going to take the week of the 4th off. We won't have class. You'll continue with your work. So your case studies will be again on weeks 4 and 6, taking week 8 off, so they'll be in 9 and 11. So every other week we'll have your case studies, and you all will present. Your entire team will present your case study. I'll talk more about those later, but we'll present those, and it'll be your night to present your case studies. We have 4 case studies. They're pretty in depth. And we'll talk about the expectations. You will have a PowerPoint. You'll get together and collaborate as a team. You'll have a PowerPoint presentation, and then each of you will separately write a half-page reflection of the process or of what you learned during that process. I would encourage you to wait until after the case study night to write your reflection. So we'll have 4 of those. Those are the big rocks. We have a lot of activities this summer, and they're not read a chapter, write a paper activities. They're coming and going, to and froing. They're gathering a lot of things together. For example, for this week, you're to locate copies of your school emergency crisis plans. How long did it take your administrator to find them? Is your plan appropriate according to what you read in your reading, in your textbook, in your reading for that? And let me see. I will need to go in and do a little work on that. And so I will link the reading before we get through tonight. I will link the reading that you'll need to do to these. Locate a copy of your school budget. Does it contain all 4 types of funds, federal, state, local, and school funds? What, if anything, is missing? List the 5 most important steps in school-based budgeting process. You'll need to talk with the school administrator about that, and conduct a facilities walkthrough using your assessment checklist inventory. How well did your school do? So those are the things that you'll need to do, and starting this week, and have those in. Generally, I like to have those in by, so we'll give you this week. So by, normally the turn-in time is Sunday night at 9. If you're late a little, there's no penalty for that, but try to stay up with your activities. There are a lot of activities to do. And so understanding this course 603 is about how you run a school. You spent the previous 2 semesters, the first semester you spent learning about academics and how to form, organize, and run PLCs, and how to do data disaggregation and go about setting an academic plan for your school. That's one of the required components of your school improvement plan. Your second semester, you spent learning how to develop a professional development plan. Again, one of those required sections. This semester, you're going to learn school operations, basically law and finance, facilities, how to run school, how to develop a master schedule, and it's a triangle. You can see my triangle here. The 2 bases of the triangle are the master schedule and the budget, and they support the school improvement plan. It's at the top. Schools are about achievement and learning, but you've got to put your money and your time where your mouth is. You've got to support those. And so the notion here is we're going to develop a master schedule through the OMA, and we're going to look at budgets, but your budget, your money, and your time must support that academic plan that you came up with in your school improvement plan through the process. So this semester is about operations. It's about how to run a school. It's not about reading a chapter, writing a paper. It's about going and finding things out, finding your master schedule, finding your budget, all those kinds of things, your security plan, your safety plan, your evacuation plans. We're going to talk about those tonight, but that's what this course is about. But back to where I started this discussion, we're going to do a lot of work in teams on our case studies. We're only going to do just written peer reviews. We're going to shift our focus, our collaborative time away from peer reviewing. We're all competent at that now. And our collaboration now is for the purpose of developing a collaborative project, which is the next step in the process of learning. And so that's what those will be your projects that you will produce for this semester. It will be your case study final presentations that you will present as a group on the designated evenings. I'll just turn it over to you. You'll share your screen and off you go. Now I may have questions, and when we get through, I'll probably blister you a time or two, but that's all part of the learning curve. And our coaches, they will have parts of presentations as well. They will be a part of our instructional program. They'll work with you a lot on your competency folio, making sure that you get your artifacts in it in task stream. We'll talk about that a little bit later tonight as well. But the main thing I want you to understand this semester is you've been through two semesters of this program. You understand peer reviewing, you understand what's expected of you in the task of the OMA this summer. And so you're going to put those tasks in our class shell, and I'm going to give you feedback on those. The only time that you will go to your coach for feedback is if it's beyond the scope of you missed this or something little. If you need further coaching, and that's okay, your coaches will work with you individually, but they're not going to do a lot of group work with you. I will give you feedback daily in your class shells. And I grade every morning and every night. I'll turn your work around same day, every day. And I will get back to you what needs to be fixed or what's bad or good, or if you've left something out. And if it's more than I can handle with a simple fix this quickly, then I will refer you to the coach, and they have clinical shells. They're already show up under my courses. If you're in the O section, it says clinical internship, Cayton, Cayton. You'll work with her in her shell if I send you there. You will not work with her. You won't put work in her shell unless I tell you to. You'll put it in our class shell, and I will work with you. Remembering this is the summer, we got to be quicker. We have roughly 60% of the time that we do during the regular semester. And so we can't go through this long process of going to peer review, then going to coach review, then instructor review. No. We're cutting out the middleman here, or the middle woman, as it turns out in this case. You will put it straight in from me. I'll tell you whether you can go to your next, I'll tell you to continue with peer review and move on to the next task. Or I'll say, you need to fix this part, resubmit here. Or I'll say, this should have been written in crayon, go to your coach's shell, work with them. That's the process to move us through. Now, unfortunately for Doctors Cayton and Miraglia, they've worked with me before. They understand the process. They've had to endure this. You folks are all new. So I'll have a little bit of compassion. You can see not a lot, but I'll have a little bit of compassion. But my expectation is that you will catch on quickly, and that our pace has to quicken by virtue that we basically have 10 weeks to get all the work done that we normally would do in 16. And our goal is just like last semester, we had 21 in our group last semester in the add-on program, and they had to do 2 evidences in 16 weeks, and all 22 of them got both of their evidence done and went on to 605. So we believe it or not, we have an idea of what we're doing. We've told you we operate under the notion of gradual release, attentional abandonment, whatever you want to call it, where each semester we have you step up and do more and more as emerging leaders. And so we're going to have to speed up. We're going to have to cut the process down, eliminate some of the moving parts, but we would do that anyway in 603 to get you ready to move on. All right, so again, here is your weekly schedule of everything that we'll be doing. All right, and so I will get out of that. Go on through our shell here. Your syllabus is here. Your peer reviewing templates are here. Peer reviewing process, you'll just do one of task 1, 2, and 3. You will not, and the reason I've got this about how the summer works for add-ons is that this is from last summer, because we're hopefully, you can get to the skip task 1, 2, and 3, but what I'm trying to show you here is this is normal. That's why I left this in there. It's normal that we do this. We move everybody to this system in 603. I get students say, well, why are you doing this? We do it to everybody, or I do it to everybody. We move everybody to one peer review of the first 3 tasks of the OMA and the skip. We do that for everybody so that we can shift our focus to our case studies. Okay. And then our case studies are here. We've got 4. I have the directions on each one of them. Here's the case study itself, the materials that you will need for it. You'll need this lesson plan roll of the principal. You'll need that for that case study. You'll also do some, you can read in your books. Case study 2, again, the directions. We'll cover these things. Case study 3, and all the things that you will need for it. Let me go back to case study 2. Yeah, there it is. This is the document that you'll need right here for it. That's the most important one. And then case study 4. And so our case studies, the first one centers around grades. The second one centers around funding. The third one around inclusivity in terms of LGBTQ. And the fourth one is about exceptional children. But it's about, it ties the entire course together in the fourth case study. There's a lot of different pieces to it. So those are the 4 case studies that we'll do this summer. Again, you've got your task and prompts for the OMA. They're here, and remember, the template is much less this semester. It just simply has the directions in it. I do have an OMA example for you here, but again, we're going to shift more of that burden to you. And remember, when you get to the skip, either later this semester, if you want to work ahead, or next semester, there is no template at all. We started out with the app cell with a complete template with all these helpful hints and examples and all that stuff, and we gave you, and then a little bit less for the app tail, but still examples and all that. The OMA, we simply have the directions. When you get to the script, you make your own template. So again, it's a process where you assume more and more responsibility. Here we have all of our, what we'll cover each week under each of the sessions. There's 10 sessions, 11 weeks. Your case studies, your turn it in, your assignment Dropbox when you finish a task. You've got your task and prompts. You've got your discussion board where you upload your task for review. That's for your peers. And for me, I have these linked to Grade Center, so I'll know when you put them in, and I'll review these tasks. I also have the skip in here and the cap. We have some folks who work ahead. We have some folks off cycle. So don't get excited and think he expects us to do the OMA, skip, and cap this summer. No, I expect you to finish the OMA, and it would be a good idea to get started on the skip if possible, but it's not a requirement. Generally, we get there with a couple weeks left, and you can kind of work ahead, and it eases some of your burden going into the fall, where you can, really, if you can knock out the skip and the cap in the fall, you'll be so much better off. But it's not, again, it's up to you how fast you want to work ahead. And then I've got competency folio materials for task stream here as well. So it's a standard Quality Matters shell like you've been using. Our shells are consistent. I designed them all, so they all look similar to this. And so that's kind of the layout for the course. We come online every Wednesday at 7. I do like to see as many of you as possible attend. I see we've got about 13 of the 17 tonight, which is good. We, on the nights we do case studies, hopefully all of you will show up and do your part on that night and not let anybody down. I need to know if folks aren't pulling their part on that. But, it's just 1 hour a week. We love to see you. We'll be here each time. Hopefully we'll the classes will be a little longer in the summer. Everybody understands. We'll try to cut them off at about 90 minutes. Now, on case study nights, they might even run a little longer than that. It's up to you in terms of how long it takes for your groups to present. And so I kind of led in with that. And so at this point, what I want to do is stop my share and have folks introduce themselves. Now, how many teams do we have in the O section? That's the group that has Ashley and Kitty and Larry, Kriana, Drew. How many teams do y'all have? Y'all have 2 teams, 1 3 and 1 4. All right. In the O3 section that has 10 in it, how many teams do y'all have? That's the group that has Ryan and Heather and Cammie. How many teams do y'all have in that section? Who's that in that group?
Can you tell us what you're referring to as teams? I'm not seeing anything.
Your peer review teams that you've been peer reviewing as a group.
Since 602?
Yeah.
Are you talking about 602?
Yeah.
Okay.
Were y'all in teams where you peer reviewed one another's work?
I guess where our confusion is, we weren't sure if you like put us in a specific team that you were talking about.
No, generally when y'all come to me, y'all have already been in teams that you formed in 601.
Yeah, me, Claire, Ashley, and Larry are in one group from 601, 602,
Right.
and now 603. I don't know who exactly is in the other group, but that's who my group is.
All
and
right,
we would prefer to stay together.
Right. We don't break you up. We like for you to stay together. So we've got Kitty and Larry and who else? Claire. So Cammie, Todd, Drew, and Heather and I were in a group. That's from Cyrus. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So y'all had 2 teams of 5, it looks like. Or did you have more than that?
No, it was 2 teams of 5.
2 teams. Excellent. So you will stay in those teams. And so Larry just said his team, no, let's see, Cyrus just said Cammie, Todd, Drew, Heather, and Cyrus. So the other 5 of you are in the other group. So that's good. So we know who our groups are. And so that's your groups. And so your contact information, let me go back to that. Let me share my screen. So you will go to, so if you haven't done this, you need to do it. Contact information for case study Zoom groups right here. And so that's how you get in touch with one another. If you don't remember who's in your team or how to get in touch with them. And so we know that according to our weekly schedule, on Zoom session 4, which is week 4, you will do case studies. So sometime in the next 2 weeks, y'all should get together and plan out your work. That means you've already read the case study and the questions, and you start planning out and assigning your task of who's going to do what on your case study. You know, get together so instead of getting together as a collaborative group to work on a peer review or something like that, you get together this semester and work on your case study presentations. And so the night of, when we get to the 4th week, when we come on at 7 o'clock, I'll do the weekly update of where we are. And then I'll turn it over to y'all and we'll start out with your case study presentation. Your group will present your PowerPoint. If you don't know how that works, I've got a video of it right here under that week. I've got last summer looks like last summer's. So you see how it goes. I mean, we could open that up, and that's a Zoom link that from the recording from that week, and that will be the expectation. So if you don't know what the expectation is from reading the case study itself and the directions, they're right here. Simply go to Zoom session go to Zoom session 4, the night that you will present, and there will be a video from last summer. Again, I like to do summer to summer, from last summer on how that worked. You'll see how it works. You'll see what they did. You'll see, you know, and if you're smart, you'll probably look at that video to see what blistering questions I'm going to ask as well, or what I'm going to point out that might have been missed in that case. So You know, it's all here for you. You just have to know where it is and go find it. So if you want to know what the expectation for the case study presentation is, click on that video. If you want to wing it on your own, that's fine with me as well. Yes, Drew.
Are we all doing case study one? So like
Everybody does one and the same thing every time. I know it's boring, but you got to work through it. No, you will not have differing case studies. You will have the same one, and then we'll declare a weekly winner. It'll be a lot of fun. It will be a lot of fun. So that's pretty much the process of what we'll do. When we get through with introductions, I will kick us off with the OMA tonight, and I'm going to do some court cases and some budget laws, and then Doctors Maraglia and Caton will round out this evening session. They'll do a unit on school facilities from the perspective of the school administrator. They're both sitting principals right now. For the O section that's working with Dr. Caton, I believe you are all high school folks. She is a high school principal. She's at Aden Griffin in Pitt County. We've got a person in our group that's from South Central. They're you know, in Winterville, just up the road. We've actually got an intern still there, Matt Crummy. But they can give you a unique perspective. As you know, it's been a day or two since I've been a principal. I was for a long time, but I've been out of the principal's office for 21 years. That's how old I am. Is Cammie with us tonight?
Yes, sir.
All right, so I'll show you how old I am, Cammie. You know Michael Joe Holt that teaches at your school?
Yes, sir.
He's not Michael Joe Holt the first. He's Michael Joe Holt the second. The first,
Yes, sir.
His dad and I were undergraduates at NC State. That's how old I am. I went to school with his daddy, and he's a grown man with kids, and I went to school with his daddy. So that gives you an idea how long it's been since I've been in the principal's office. I spent the last 10 years in the central office, and I've been with Gardner Webb now for 11 years. So it's been 21 years for me. But Dr. Caton does it every day. Dr. Maraglia does it every day. And so they have a unique perspective. I can tell you how it works because I'm in schools all the time, but I don't do it every day. And that's the value that they will bring in working with you, is they do it every day. They do the job every day. Now, I did it for 20 years. I hired principals and supervised principals for another 11. So I have a pretty good idea, and I've done this for 11. So I have a pretty good idea of what it is. But I like to hear from the experts. They're experts because they do it every day. So this is a practical course. This is about putting theory into practice. This is about operations. This is about how you run a school on a daily basis. What the things that you have to do. So I want for us quickly for folks to introduce themselves, and I'll just go around. Todd, we'll start with you. Tell us where you are and what you do.
Hi, I'm Todd Tinsley. I am a IB English teacher at Concord High School in Concord, North Carolina. And I'm a varsity soccer coach and club soccer coach, and living the dream.
Living the dream. Was that a Chelsea hat that I saw you wearing?
Oh no, I am totally Man United. This is a Hornets hat. Oh no.
All right. Well, Todd, welcome. We're glad to have you.
Thank you.
I thought that might get a rise out of you. Cyrus?
Hi, good evening. I'm Cyrus Henson, and I am a math teacher at Hickory High School. And yeah, right now that's about all I'm doing. We're preparing for EOC, so it's math, and then more math.
Yeah, it's pretty rough right now. It's pretty rough right now.
Cyrus,
I
do you want to
know.
move to Pitt County? Cyrus, if you want to move to Pitt County, let me know. I need a math teacher.
Oh no, ma'am, I'm already driving over an hour one way to get to where I am.
Are you living in Boone?
I live on the Avery County side of Blowing Rock.
Oh my Lord.
I drive to Hickory.
Oh Lord. Yeah, that's a long way. When I was principal up in Burke County, I had a lady that was driving from Boone every day, so I know how that goes. That's a long ride, but welcome. We're glad to have you. All righty. Matthew.
Hi, my name is Matthew Hockaday. I'm a math teacher at Franklinton High School in Franklinton, North Carolina. I'm also the head women's basketball coach and assistant football coach as well.
Oh, well, welcome.
Matt, do you want to move? Do you want to move to Pitt County, Matt? I need a math
No,
teacher.
you can't do that. You can't do that to his principal. His principal's a friend of mine, Russell. You can't do that to Russell.
No, sir.
He would disown me if you took his math teacher.
Yes,
Basketball coach.
Yes, sir.
We would no longer be friends. That would be a line in the sand, I'm afraid. I can't make him mad. He's a lot younger and stouter than I am. I don't want to make him mad. But we're glad to have you, Matthew.
Thank you, sir.
All right. Brianna.
Hi, I'm Kriana Bailey. I teach first grade at Lake Carolina Elementary in Columbia, South Carolina. The end of the year looks different for 6 and 7-year-olds. It's just a lot of repeating yourself and, just going over the rules again. So that's my life.
Yeah. And how is Dr. Norton doing?
She's doing wonderful. She's literally my angel.
She is. Don't tell her you know me. She was my doctoral student, so don't tell her you know me. But
okay, I promise.
But you can tell but just so you'll know, she was my favorite.
And I see why. She's my favorite. So I understand.
She is a special person. I love her dearly. You tell her I said hey.
I will.
Thank you. William.
Hey, I'm Will Heminger. I teach at Western Alamance High School in the ABSS school system. I teach biology and AP seminar. And we've got our AP seminar or our AP exam coming up in 5 days. So about that.
Yeah. I worked in let's see. Is Graham, that's in Alamance, isn't it? Yeah,
yes.
I had some interns there, but I don't think that I've had any at your school. I don't believe I've had any there. I probably know somebody there, but I know where you are. I know that community, and so that's a good place. And so, yeah, there's a lot of pressure on testing there. I get it. Tough times, but welcome. Michael?
Hey, I'm Michael Terry. I teach first grade at Pisco Forest Elementary School in Brevard, North Carolina.
That's kind of off the beaten path. I believe your instructional coach got her master's with us. I believe she's there. Stephanie Merrill. Yeah. So, yeah, we don't get a lot of folks from up in Transylvania, but we get a few good folks from up that way. We're glad to have you. And I hope I get this right. Marika, is it Marika Smith or is it America?
It's America.
America. Well, welcome. Tell us about you.
I am America Smith. I am a pre-K teacher in Chester, South Carolina. I work at the Chester Park School of Inquiry. And I'm jealous of all of you people who are experiencing your end of the year because I have to go until June 22nd.
Oh my.
So yeah, I'm just tired.
Yeah. I know. Is Miss Taylor still there as your principal?
She is.
Yeah, I had a couple. Y'all are on the back side of that complex. You have to drive around.
Yes,
Come
sir.
in off that back parking lot. Yeah, I had a couple of interns there. That's been a real good place for us. And so we expect. I have high expectations for you.
Oh, okay.
I hadn't seen Miss Taylor in a while, but I really enjoyed spending time with her. She's a super lady.
She is.
Larry, tell us about it tonight.
I am Larry Sampson. I am the Dean of Students at New Hanover High School. I'm also the head women's basketball coach, and I coach travel softball too.
Wow. It's a busy, busy time. Now, when I taught in Fayetteville, we had, and also I taught at Hoggard there in Wilmington. One of my students was the former dean at New Hanover. I believe he coached some as well. But so we've had some students from there. It's a good place. We've had students from there, and so I'm glad that we're back in New Hanover. That's wonderful. We hadn't had as many since we went online and stopped teaching. We taught at Hoggard for years, but it's good to have somebody back from New Hanover. We're glad to have you.
Glad to be here.
Mary?
Hi, I'm Mary Vilchek. I teach 4th grade at Meminger Elementary in Charleston, South Carolina.
Yeah, and I was thinking about that as I was looking through. I think, I don't know. I think one of your APs might have. I recognize the name, but I'm not sure. But we've had a good many out of Charleston lately, Somerville in that area, and so again, that's been a good place for us, and as far north as Florence, but mostly in that area. So so we're glad to have you from Charleston.
Thank you.
That's a good place too. So Kitty?
Yeah, I love it here.
Yeah. Kitty, tell us about you.
My name's Kitty McCurry. I am a business and marketing teacher at Inca High School in Candler, North Carolina, in the Buncombe County school system. I'm also the senior sponsor, so I'm getting ready to get those kids graduated. For a normal graduation, we're very excited about that. No mask, no capacity limits and things like that. And I was also just named our new department head for next year.
Well, congratulations.
Thanks.
So knowing Caleb didn't hurt you any then.
No, I keep him in line.
He told me that. I kind of doubt that anybody keeps him in line. But,
I do my best.
Yeah, that would be a full-time job. He
has a lot of energy.
He's a high energy young man. I tell you what, he calls me frequently and wears me out. So
yes, he comes to talk to me frequently.
Yeah,
and I see him at the bus lot every day. So yes.
Yeah, he's
he's a good kid. He played ball with my son, so I've known him for a long time.
Yeah, he is that.
Yes.
I am a big Caleb fan.
Yes, I am too. He's the one that talked me into this program.
Yeah, he told me that.
Yeah.
So we won't hold him. We won't hold that against him. That's good. He's a treat. He really is. All right, Heather.
Hey, I'm Heather Parrish. I am a biology teacher at Bessemer City High School in Gaston County.
So I've had several, and your principal just finished with us in the EDLS program fairly recently.
She did. Both of her APs also finished at Gardner Webb as well. Yep. One doctoral and one master's.
Yeah. I don't know. I think some of them back in the old days when we were teaching at Ashbrook High School in Gastonia, they came down 321. And nothing bad happened to them when they passed the city limits. And we had a good many from Cherryville at that time too. So that was a good group. So yeah, they've done well in that area. So we're glad to have you. You'll just continue on in that line of the good ones that come out of that part of the county. That would be
Thank you.
great. All right, Drew.
I'm Drew Belk. I'm a PE teacher at Lincoln Middle School in Lincoln County, North Carolina, and I'm the athletic director there as well.
So I'm guessing you're a little bit busy. Now, your principal finished with us a few years back, Allison.
Yep.
And so I know she's a quality administrator, so you've got you've got a good person there to work with. And so, yeah, Lincoln's been good for us as well. And even over to the charter school. So we've done well in Lincoln. And so our folks have done well in that area. Cammie?
Hey, I'm Cammie, and I teach world history for 9th through 12th graders at Clyde A. Irwin High School, just right outside of Asheville.
Yeah, just right behind Harry's on the hill.
That's correct. And I know all the Holtz actually personally. My husband coached their boys in football. They're good people.
They are. Now, Mike's wife was the home ec teacher.
Yes.
When he graduated from state, he went to work there. And he met her, and they got married, and so I can't believe it's been that long. But him and Chris Martin, and then later on, I think David was there for a while. But they were from eastern part of the state. They went back, but Mike stayed. I think he was from Rutherford County, but he stuck. And so they live out in Leicester, and
yes.
So they've become a big part of that community. Fine family. Great school. If you hadn't been up to behind Harry's on the Hill, Harry's a Cadillac dealership. But it's always Harry's on the Hill, and Irwin Hills is up behind that wonderful place in Buncombe County. And so
my middle son actually helps him coach for Western Carolina. He's a student assistant this year.
Wow, that's great. That's
so
great.
small world.
Small world. It's a small world. We try to know everybody. The school business is a family. It's pretty much the same wherever you go. It's quality people, and it's all about relationships and the people that you know. And you can't fake it if you don't have any skills and don't work hard. But if you know people, it's always helpful, and folks are always willing to help you. So that's the good part of it. All right, so Claire.
Hey, I'm Claire Conklin. I am at Forest Hills High School, which is in Union County Public Schools. My current position is master teacher, which sounds fancier than what it is, but we're part of a TSL program grant that's federal. And so with master teacher, I teach 2 blocks at the high school, and then I'm also coaching other teachers, my other 2 blocks.
Yeah, another one of the fellows that finished with us at state, he went there, I think, if I can remember, Doug Ralph, but he's been retired forever, but he taught there. But that's a great place. At Forest Hills, we haven't had anybody there in a while, but so I'm glad to see that we're back. I think we're missing a couple people tonight. Looking over my list here. Let's see. Is Ryan with us? No. Ryan's at South Central, near Dr. Caton. He's there in Winterville. So we know him. And then we've got one, Ashley. Is Ashley with us? I don't see her on the screen. She's at North Henderson with John Shepard. John works with us some at Gardner Webb. He's a recent doctoral graduate of us at Gardner Webb. And so it's kind of what you've entered, if you hadn't figured it out, you've entered into a big family in the Mels family. We have folks pretty much in every county, North and South Carolina. We know we try to keep up with our folks. We will do an interviewing session, as I told you the other night at the end, to try to help you get jobs. You got in this program to get out and to move on with your career, to get jobs. We have a network of people. I won't say that we'll pull you in through that network, because you still got to have the skill and the hard work and the ability, but the Mels family, and it's not just Mels from Gardner Webb. It's the school administration group is a big family. It's a big group that there's a lot of connections, but most specifically the Mels family is. We pride ourselves on our connections and keeping up with folks. Just prior to coming on, I was talking with, I spent an hour with Amber Phelps. Amber did our master's program, did our add-on, then came back and did the 2 courses for her master's. She started out with us in Jacksonville, North Carolina. She's a military dependent. And then she went to Hawaii. She was at Hickam on the Big Island with her family. And they've now come to Florida. She's in Jacksonville, Florida. And we followed her all the way through. She's got an AP job, and we were doing the prep for a principal interview just before this class. And so I have been with Amber from Jacksonville, North Carolina to the Big Island of Hawaii, now to Jacksonville, Florida. But she still calls, she still texts, and you can do the same. Any of the folks that you work with, as you've already figured out in the Mels program, we'll be here for you. And so the notion is if you work hard and put the work in, the return will be there. And that's kind of my charge to you is to make sure that you understand that this is a family that we work hard. Part of the reason why we do the case studies is for you to begin to learn to collaborate in a professional sense to produce a work product. As a lot of schools found out, unfortunately, through the pandemic, just being able to operate Zoom doesn't mean anything's happening. The whole notion is taking it to the next level is, can you work collaboratively to produce a product through virtual means? And that's the next level. And then the next level beyond that is, can you translate that into a learning platform? And so we're at phase 2. You've learned how to use Zoom, how to do document review and those kinds of things. We're moving into phase 2, where you learn to work in a collaborative group to produce a product. That's what we're focusing on in terms of our technology, our digital teaching and learning this semester. We're taking it to that next level this semester, again, in that skill development. Some of you may be able to do it better than we do already, but again, there's a little learning curve that comes with having to be under the pressure of, I've got this much time to produce a product. We're not just going to come on case study night and talk off the top of our head or out of the seat of our pants. We've got to have a presentation, and we've got to be able to work through that presentation logically, where we can present this point of view or this perspective or answer these questions. We've got a work product, and so that's what we're going to be doing this semester. So having said that, that leads me to our evidence for this semester. You will have 4 tasks of the OMA. The OMA is not about, it's not about building a master schedule, a duty roster, and a supervision schedule. It's about building a legal master schedule, duty roster, and supervision schedule. And so and all of the components of running the school and making sure that you hit all of your legal marks, like, your monthly fire drill. Raise your hand if you knew that if you were in school, you had to do a monthly fire drill. Well, we all know that. Yeah, we're all going to raise our hand. How many of you knew that you're required by law twice a month to do a facilities walkthrough and check for dangers, fires, hazards, blockage, that you're required to document 2 times a month that you've done a safety check of your building? How many of you knew that? We got some folks who knew that, but not everybody knew. So that's what we're talking about. You have to have a duty roster. What's the difference between a duty roster and a supervision schedule? A duty roster is during the day. Bus duty, car rider duty, cafeteria duty, hall duty, lunchroom duty, all the duties. Supervision schedule is after school. This notion that, well, if it happens after school, I'm not, yeah, you are. If it happens on your campus, you're responsible for it. Master schedule, who teaches what, where, and when? How do we go about developing a master schedule? Eeny, meeny, miny, mo is not a process. That's hope. That's not a plan. There is a rationale on how we develop a master schedule. We start with federal law, then we go to state law, then we go to local board policy, then we go to EBOS or our performance data, and then finally, number 5, and only then, we go to teacher input. There is a process for developing a master schedule. And so that leads me into the OMA task 1. So what are we going to do in task 1 of the OMA? Let me share my screen and we'll get started. All right, so let me go to my documents I've already pulled up. And so here we are. And so what I've just said to you is what all this is talking about right here. So let's look at our individual tasks and prompts, starting with task 1 and the prompt that goes with it. The candidate will research and develop an analysis of school context, internal and external levels, to include demographic information regarding students and staff, places this information within a state and national context. In addition, all right, the contextual analysis demonstrates an understanding of district, state, and federal policy, law, and district mandates that regulate structures, rules, and procedures in place for students and staff, equitably and transparency, all your special pops, and then your budgeting process. So let me tell you what you're going to need to do this. First thing you're going to do is have to find your state report card, because your state report card is going to give you your internal context. It's going to tell about teacher quality, attendance, discipline, academic performance. That's the key piece of your internal context. All the things that you see on a state report card, that is your internal context, your test scores, your performance, teacher, all of that stuff, advanced degrees, teacher quality, highly qualified, all of that. So you're going to need your state report card, and if you've got a local report card, you're going to need that for your internal context. Now, your external context, what is that? Well, that's all about your community that your school is in. Remember that school profile that you wrote in your app cell and used in your app tel? You're going to need to expand on that just a little bit. So I would suggest that you find the opening section of your accreditation document. Your principal will have it. You'll either be SACS or advanced ed, and some districts, don't do accreditation for the lower grade schools. All high schools are. But you can find that in terms of what's the average income, average education, what's the history of your school. Some of your schools are very historical. What is the context of your community? A lot of that has to do with socioeconomic, free and reduced lunch, those kinds of things. Put your school in context. All right, so that's what you're going to need to find for that. Then you're going to need a copy of your budget, but you're also going to need to know what your budget process is. So I'm going to read this one to you verbatim. Again, I hate to do this, but for some reason we have the hardest time with this one. The contextual analysis clearly describes the school's budgeting process and procedures. So what we need to know is when your school starts the budget process, how does that process work? That's what we're going to look for, and specifically what we're looking for is how much input your school improvement team has in developing your local school budget. Remember when I talked about the triangle? Your school budget and your master schedule have to support your instructional program. If your school improvement team, who is the owner of your school improvement plan, if they don't have any input in your budget, what is the likelihood that your budget is going to support the school improvement plan? Not a lot. Your process and determines your product. And when we talk about operations, so what we want to know is what part, what process do we go to department chairs and ask them what they need? I mean, do we look at our school improvement plan and say, what are our academic initiatives? What is the process that leads us to develop that budget? And specifically, does your school improvement team have a role in that process, or does the principal just send out a sheet to the department chairs and tell us what you want, and then here's your budget for the next year? And it may or may not support the school improvement plan, all your academic initiatives. So that's what we're looking for there. We're looking for everything on your report card, your SACS report in terms of your external context. We're looking for your budget, the process that puts it together, and how much your school improvement team has to do in that process. Now, we're also looking for you to do an audit of your special populations. Let me say that again, that would be your federal program. Because remember, when we start putting that master schedule together in task 3, we're going to start with all of our federal programs first, because they are the most restrictive, and they are the least, they are the programs that are the most rigid in terms of what you have to deliver. So when you're doing an audit of your special population, that's 2 things. What are they supposed to get, and what are they getting? Now, what are your special population federal programs? All right, the first one and the biggest one will be your Exceptional Children's Program and your 504 program for disadvantaged children. So EC 504, Title I, English as a second language, whatever you call it in your district, your academically gifted program, and your CTE programs. Let me go through those again. EC 504, Title I, English as second language, academically gifted, and CTE. Those are the 6 special population areas that are all federally funded programs. They pay for the teachers and send the money for them. Now, you will need to distinguish if you have a Title I, any of you at a Title I school. All right, so I see some hands. You need to distinguish between being a Title I school and having a Title I program. That is not semantics. A Title I school has a certain level of free and reduced lunch, usually above 80%. And that means that regardless of whether a particular kid is in a Title I kid or he's one of the less than 20% that isn't, every kid in the building can share in that Title I service and money. If you have a Title I program, that means you're only at 50% free and reduced lunch. And the difference is only the kids that are identified as Title I can share in those teachers and money. Everybody got that? So if you have a Title I if Title I is in your school, I need to know if it's Title I, or you need to know if it's Title I program or Title I school. Now, I'll give you my example. We don't have anybody other than we have one from Wilmington, but we don't have anybody. So when you go around the curve on 40 in Raleigh, and you head toward Wilmington from Raleigh on 40, about halfway down, you'll come to, 42, and you make a left and head back toward Topsail across the state. There, people say, well, what town is it? There is no town. It's in the middle of nowhere. Your GPS, just the wheel sets and spins. It can't even, So I was visiting an intern at a school out there, out in Chinquapin, if you know where that is. And I actually had to drive up a man's driveway and through the back of his carport to get to the school. That's how far out in the middle of nowhere it was. And I got there, I had to wait an hour to see the principal. And then I saw the principal, and I had to go back 2 weeks later to see the new principal. They had a Title I program. They were not a Title I school. And he forgot the rationale, which is federal law first, then state, then local board policy. Your EVOS or performance data, and then teacher input comes last when building the master schedule. He let the 3rd grade teachers talk him into balancing the load of 3rd grade students. And he put 20 students in the class, a Title I teacher's class that weren't Title I. Now, the whole notion of, I told the story, it's out in the middle of nowhere, is relevant to this story is they were having a Title I audit when I showed up that day. Now, they didn't just find his school and say, we'll think we'll do a Title I audit over here. It was so far off the beaten path, they were probably like me. I thought I was going to have to get a helicopter to get in there. But the Title I teacher picked up the phone the day that 20 kids showed up that weren't hers in her class and called Raleigh. And they came out and did a Title I audit the next day. And later that day, that man retired. He didn't know that morning that he was retiring by the end of that day. If you misspend federal money, you only do it once. And then somebody else gets the opportunity to do that. And so when we're looking to build a master schedule, all of our federal programs come first. So we have to know what federal programs are in our school, what they're supposed to get, what the law says that these students are entitled to, and then what we are doing in our school. So that's our special POPs audit that goes along with task 1. So in task 1, we're going to do internal, everything on the state report card that tells all about our school. We're going to do external from our accreditation document. We're going to look at our budget and how it's developed. We're going to look at our special populations, and then we're going to pull together everything else pretty much that's in the faculty handbook, supervision schedule, duty roster, all those things that's in your faculty handbook. And that will tell us everything that we need to know to build a master schedule and a budget for your school. That's what we're looking for in task 1. Let me share my screen and go back to that. So that's what we're looking for. And also, when we get all of that done, we're going to talk about equity, diversity, and transparency. What you do in your school, or what's in place in your school to make sure that you are addressing equity and transparency. And generally what that means is what you're doing from EVOS, your performance data. And you can also speak to diversity there as well. Okay. I'm going to pause and catch my breath and get a sip of this diet tea that I'm addicted to. Questions? I'll even take it off share. Everybody understand what we're going to do for task 1 of the OMA this summer. Now you said, Dale, come on now. That's going to take more than a week. You got 3 weeks to do this one. 3 weeks. You got 3 weeks to knock, because it's a lot. It's a data dump. I'll have students who say to me, this thing's 100 pages long. And my response to that is, so? And your point is, it is a data dump, gathering all that stuff together. But it's basically a scavenger hunt. But when you can pull all that together and start to make sense of it, you can understand, well, this is why we do this, or this is why we do that, or this is why our schedule looks like this or that. The worst thing that you can do in a school is when you put out the master schedule as a principal and half the teachers are mad, is start trying to change it. Again, the process determines the outcome. The process you go through to build that master schedule gives you that product. And if you didn't follow the process and half the people are mad, if you start trying to change it, then the other half will be mad. The whole notion in building your master schedule is that you go through the process. You start with your federal program, then the state law, and I've got a document there that stays under tonight's lesson, how many days, how many hours, planning time, duty free, all that stuff has to be factored in next. Then your local board policies. We have a person who teaches in elementary school. How many minutes of reading you're going to have, whether it's a block schedule or whether it's an AB day, all that stuff, the daily bell schedule, all that's a local decision. Then your performance data from EVOS or whatever performance system, Cognia or whatever you're using to say what teachers ought to be teaching what courses and what kids. That's all that is. Who gets the best results? And then finally, teacher input. But in that order, that's what we're looking for. I'm going to pause again, and I'm going to go to our 2 resident principals for their thoughts on this scavenger hunt. I'll start with Dr. Caton.
Okay, so just like Dr. Lamb said, it's very important when you go to do your master schedule. The things that I do, of course, I start with EVOS. Um, I can show you, if you want, you just ask me for our master schedule, how we do things. We look at our freshmen coming in, seeing who are going to be our lowest level students and what major support they're going to need. We usually put them, instead of doing, we call them skinnies, like it's a freshman academy. And so they're in year-long classes. Instead of them being in 120-minute long, is split half and half because the attention span usually is shorter. So we go ahead and identify students that may need additional support. My whole master schedule is focused around, we have our freshman academy and sophomore academy, as well as our exceptional children. We do, our EC students are in year-long as well. Curriculum assistants, they get direct instruction for reading and for math. So they do a skinny as well in that one period. So I am the one that builds both the EC schedule and the ones that help out. I also build the freshman academy schedule. And our teachers, it's very important to our teachers because it's part of our school improvement plan. They all know that those are the biggest things for our school. And that you can see when we look at our teacher allotments that we look at specific teachers for those. And we know that those are going to be smaller classes and we need more teachers for that. So our teachers are very aware of that and they're behind that. So that's a little bit about what I do for master scheduling. Anything else that you wanted me to touch on specifically, or when you talked about systems and everything, I'm a very system person. I can show you some of the things that I do. I have I call it, we're the chargers. I have something called a charger hub. Of course, I have a handbook that's detailed with everything. But I have something called a charger hub, and it actually, I don't know if Dr. Land shared it with you tonight or not. It's in our folder that's got everything there tonight. So teachers have everything in our handbook, but it's like a one-stop shop. So you're not flipping through all the pages. Actually, it's electronically, so they're not looking electronically everywhere. It's a one-stop shop through everything from our announcements to our master schedule, to our website, to our school improvement plan, observation schedules, everything. So I don't know if Dr. Lamb, you can bring that up or not later, but that's some of the things that they can see on that.
I was able to open that up when you sent that to me, and I will share that link with them. I didn't know if you wanted me to just open it up to them or not. When I saw some things in there that I didn't know if you won't share it or not, but if that link is okay, I can share that with them. And you can see a lot of these materials that Dr. Caton uses to schedule. Dr. Caton, what have y'all got? 900 students in your high school?
Actually, we're only 650 students. We're small. We're very small. We're the smallest in Pitt County, but the best in Pitt County.
So, but it is a high school and it has all of those different functions. Now, Dr. Maraglia has experience in both middle and elementary level. And so that's completely different scheduling. So Dr. Maraglia, so if you want to weigh in on scheduling in middle and elementary school.
Well, one of the things that always comes to my mind when I hear Dr. Lamb go from the continuum of starting at federal program or federal guidelines going through state and local, once you followed those, one thing in particular that we do at our school is from teacher input, we rotate our schedule. We also have decided that block scheduling did not work well for our students. And so we have gone back to when I first started teaching 100 years ago, we have a 7-period day and we rotate our schedule. So Monday through Friday, everybody they start off with a different class each day. So that difficult class you have right after lunch or that difficult class you might have at the end of the day, you don't always have them at the same time. And our teachers really like that. And it's a little bit confusing at first when you start off. But the teachers like that because they don't feel like they're falling into the same rut every day with the same kids at the same time. Now, we followed federal, we followed state, we followed local, we've looked at our EVOS. This is what we found has worked for us, and we got teacher input on it. Also thinking about this whole data dump that Dr. Lamb's talking about, it is going to be a lot, but it's going to give you such a really clear picture of your school, and it's going to force you out of your 4 walls that sometimes you get locked into just from the nature of being a classroom teacher. And it's going to give you a great overview of what your school's about and some things you might not have thought about before. I've always thought that being a testing coordinator gives you a fantastic overview of your school, but this is another way of doing that. And as you start the transition from thinking of a teacher to an administrator, these are things that you're going to have to be thinking about. And it's tied so well with the fact that we're doing organizational management this semester, because more than anything, you've got to be able to handle your facility. You've got to be able to run your school. And to do that, you've got to have this information. And if you don't know it off the top of your head, you got to know where to find it. That's what's going to be so very important to you as administrators.
Thank you, Dr. Maraglia. One of the things that you heard both of these sitting practitioners say is they designed their master schedule around their school profile. You heard Dr. Caton say they have what's called skinnies. They don't do them in a block. You heard Dr. Maraglia say the block doesn't work. Where she is you know, with the community and the type learners that come to the door every day. And remember, the mama sent the best ones they had. They didn't keep the smart ones at home. Our job is to teach them all. That a 7-period day works better for them, shorter time periods, and moving them through. Dr. Maraglia was a Montessori principal at one time as well, where we learn at that level. It's not about time. It's about comprehension. And the notion that, oh, the block schedule, that's got to work the same for everybody. No, it doesn't. You know, we have to assess what our kids are learning, but we have to know what our population is. We have to know who walks in our door every day. As Dr. Caton said, they do some year-long courses for some of their kids, but because they're able to break it down, they can't handle that accelerated larger block time and of a shorter time. That it's too much for them. Again, we're assessing our community and the kind of learners that walk in our door every day. And we're trying to set them up to be successful and our teachers to be successful. And if you don't know your school context, if you don't know much about your school, especially if you've only ever been in the classroom and you've only know your 4 walls, this will be an eye opener for you. So take your 3 weeks. Now, the gift to you is the reason why we can take 3 weeks to do this is because task 2 is going to take all of 30 minutes. Let me say that again. Task 2 is going to take all of 30 minutes. All you have to do for task 2, because you did an academic program last semester for your APTEL, you simply take and copy task 1, 2, and 3 of your APTEL, take off the APTEL labels, put it together, and that becomes task 2 of the OMA, period. Now, the only thing to remember about this is this. If you were one of those people who actually put the graphic organizer of your professional development plan, your professional growth plan for your school, if you put that in your appendices of your APTEL, take it out. It's got to be at the end of your task 1, 2, and 3 with the labels and prompts and all that off of it. You know, put copy and paste, take that out. That'll be a big chunk, but that will be OMA task 2. But at the end of OMA task 2, I have to see that graphic organizer of your school professional development plan or your professional growth plan. So the only mistake that you can make there is A, you leave the APTEL labels on it, and that'll confuse your grader, your evaluator in task stream, or B, you forgot that we need that graphic. The whole point of OMA task 2 is that graphic organizer of your professional growth or professional development plan for your school. So if you did, and because you did an academic topic last semester, you're golden. You're good to go. And then in 3, we're going to do either a partial master schedule or a full, and we're going to use our rationale as to why we would suggest these changes. They don't have to be adopted, but that's what we're going to do. And we'll talk more about that when we get you through task 1. And you know, in a couple of weeks, I'll talk to you about task 3. You can read ahead, but don't worry about that yet, because if you read it now, it'll be overwhelming. We've got to pull all this stuff together and get our school context and get all of our ducks in a row here We know everything about our school, and we got what our professional development plan is, because remember, that's our academic plan, and we got to support that and our teachers through the master schedule. So we'll have all that stuff put together in about 4 weeks, 3 weeks or so, 4 weeks. We'll have all, and then we'll boom right through putting together our new master schedule or a partial. And then of course you write your competencies and task 4 and you're done. And hopefully we'll get done at about the 8-week mark. Give you time to, if you want me to, we'll launch into the skip. We'll look at it and kind of get you going on it, so that, if you can get it and the cap knocked out in the fall, it'll make your spring much more enjoyable. Only have the SIOP left to do in the spring when you finish up. But again, if you get through the OMA this summer and you say I'm done, that's quite all right. But I won't stop anybody that wants to work ahead. All right, so now very quickly, I'm going to share a couple of documents, and we're going to look at some things. These are under week 1, and you can look at these on your own. I'm assuming all of you can read. I said, there's a link to this document. There is this document, and I only use North Carolina materials, and I apologize to the South Carolina people. Y'all use titles. We don't generally teach that, but you'll have exactly the same thing in South Carolina law. And this is the role of the principal. This is 115C288. I've also got a link in there to the actual. Let me close this one. I've got a link to this general statutes where you can pull them all up. There's 545. The one that we're most interested in for this course this semester is 115C288, which is the powers and duties of the principal to grade and classify a pupil. That's where our first case study will come from. Make accurate reports to the superintendent, improve instruction, conduct fire bureaus and safety reports. You got to do a facilities assessment. That's always where you get called on that one. Everybody knows to do the fire drill. So that's why we'll have you do a facilities walkthrough. We've got a document that you will use if you don't have one for your district, one of the walkthrough documents, a checklist. I've got one that you can do. I prefer you use ours. It's more comprehensive usually. And you have to file these written. You got to, twice a month. You have to inspect your building, cafeterias, gyms, boiler rooms, storage rooms, auditorium, stage areas, and all classrooms, keeping the building safe and accumulation of trash and other fire hazards. You have to file written reports of these things. That's the one that always catches you. That's the one that when something goes wrong, they go back and do an audit trail of where you're doing your safety inspections. And again, it's all fun and games till somebody gets their eye put out, and then it turns ugly. Discipline students, we'll do major units on due process. We've got due processes in several of our cases, but we'll do that on discipline and due process. Property, facilities, we'll have a little more on that tonight. You have to make available your school budget and improvement plans. Every semester I have somebody that comes back and says, well, I can't get that. My principal says that we don't give out public copies of the budget and the school improvement plan. You do both. They're just faking you. Both of those have to be available for public consumption. So that's why you got to find them. Evaluate employees. We'll do a section on personnel this summer. The good doctors will probably do that one. And then here's your ethical paradigms. So when you're looking at your case studies, you apply all the laws here, but you also need to apply these ethical paradigms of the profession as well. Justice, care, critique, and profession. You need to look at these 4 paradigms of ethical behavior as well when you're doing case studies. So you can refer to this document, but this one will help you out to understand what you're training and preparing for. I hope this isn't the first time you've seen it, but we'll reference this a good bit this semester. And again, here are all the general statutes. There's a link to them. You can read each one of those if you would prefer to. All right, close that and that. I told you that there'd be a document that will help you out. This is an older version, but it talks about these are state laws in terms of the number of days, planning time, duty free, all of those kinds of things. So this is a good many of the laws that refer to scheduling. That's under our week 1 tonight. You need to refer to this when you're looking at building your master schedule. You have to take into account these state laws. Now, local policies will be according to your district, and a lot of them will determine whether you do a block schedule, a 7-period day, 6-period, whether you do AB day, the length of time that you will have in elementary school in terms of reading, how many minutes of reading per week, how many minutes of, or per day of reading instruction or math or social studies. That's all local. The federal governs their 6 programs. The state governs the overall number of days, personnel law, duty-free time, planning time, those kinds of things, the number of hours of instruction in order to get Carnegie units for graduation. That's all state stuff. The local says we're going to do, this is our bell schedule. We're going to go from 8 to 4 or from 8:30 to 4:30. We're going to do an AB day schedule. We're going to do a block schedule. That's all the local. Your EVOS data, as Dr. Caton reminded us, tells us what teachers ought to be teaching what courses and what students. It's just matching, performance matching. And then teacher input, as Dr. Maraglia tells us, helps us with what kids to put in what places or what groups or who should be together, or it gives them a voice in building that schedule as well. So this document is under tonight. And then I have pulled out specific laws for you, so you won't have to go hunting them, that have to do with budget and how we do school budgets. And in North Carolina and South Carolina, we work on the modified accrual accounting system. And so so I've got all of those budget laws here for you. And I've got from Charlotte Mecklenburg, the place that I worked last, I have the local policies on handling money and things like fundraising. I have all those pulled out for you here, so you won't have to go hunting them. And so I want to stop here for a second and clear up a couple of things. I didn't see anybody in our group. We normally have somebody in our groups. My group, we have more add-ons than we have regular masters, and we generally have a few folks from charter schools. And so I want to say this: one of the common misconceptions that people have in the school business is that when a kid goes to a charter school and they get the money, that when they come back to public school, that the money doesn't come, the charter school's already got it and spent it. That is not true. So let me address that. Both North and South Carolina have a flat funding formula. We're going to get to this when we get to the Leandro case, our case study on school funding. So what that means is the state allots a flat fee, about $8,000 per student. And they send that to the school district to educate that child. The majority of it is to pay teacher salaries. But please understand this: there's 2 caveats to that flat funding formula. The first is they subtract absenteeism. All right. So if your daily attendance runs at 95%, you only get 95% of that per pupil money. But you don't get all 8,000 or subtract the 5%. You know, 5 times 8 is 40. You don't get $7,600 for that kid. You get $760 10 times. So that's why this notion that if a kid goes to a charter school and then comes back, they've already got the money. They only got the money for the time that he was there. The state does not pay you in advance, and they pay you. Anybody in here that's a Willie Nelson fan, the way that Willie sings, he sings behind the beat. The state pays behind the beat. The school district has to fund the first 20 days of school. You have to have reserve balance on hand, and you pay for everything the first month of school. If you spend it correctly in the modified accrual accounting system, at the end of the first month, they send you 1/10 of that money. They divide into 10 monthly payments, just like the 10 months of school. So you get $800 minus the 5% for absenteeism. We don't pay on the number that are enrolled. We pay on ADM, average daily membership. We subtract absenteeism. So if the absenteeism for your district is 5% for that month, you get a 5% reduction in that 1/10 of that money they send you. That sounds a little confusing, but it's not really. You get $8,000 per year per kid, divided into 10 monthly payments, $800 for that. But we take the number of kids that attended, we subtract the absentee, and that's what the state sends you. And they reimburse you after you spend it. They reimburse you. You spend that money, they reimburse you. And so that's the way the modified accrual accounting system works. And so the big thing here is that you don't get all the money up front. Absenteeism hurts you. The state only pays for the kids that attend. Now, when it comes to your local budget, there's 4 different. You got federal money, you got state money, you've got local money from your district, and then you've got school money that through fundraising and some of you are coaches or do after school your special accounts. So you've got 2. Some high schools have 3. You need to understand that each one of those has specific rules about how you can spend that money. It's not like if I've got $10 in this pocket and 10 in this one that I can spend $20. No, I can spend 10 and 10. If this money is federal and this money is state, I can only spend that money for that particular thing. That you have to know the rules on money and what it can be spent for. Codes, your financial secretary. I'm going to go to our sitting principals in here, and they're going to talk to you quickly about what they do to ensure in their school that they're spending their money on approved things and that they don't get their code switched or their sources or their wires crossed and spend money inappropriately. I'll go in reverse order this time. Dr. Maraglia, are you still with us? If you moved on the screen, there you are. How do you make sure that you're spending money correctly in a school?
Well, one of the most important things is to have a secretary who's also very knowledgeable about that and working very closely so that you're ensuring that you're not breaking any of the rules. I'm also one who doesn't spend a lot of money because that's just not me. We make sure that we spend it on materials and things like that we need. But if I'm ever in doubt about anything, I always make sure I refer back to our handbook, or I even don't have a problem in calling and asking somebody just to make sure that I don't run into any difficulties with that. But I would say one of the best things you can do is to make sure you have a secretary who is trustworthy and knowledgeable and that you work closely together and you talk to her on a regular basis about what's going on and where the money's going.
Okay. Dr. Caton?
In addition to that, I also ask for an in-house printout of my in-house monies as well as my state and local monies and line items every week. Every Friday when my secretary brings me my folder, she knows to also bring me a printout of everything, of my balances and all that kind of stuff. Now, for me, I am really big. I'm going to go ahead and spend all my money, my state money by January. And I am also one to, I'm always advocating for our school to have more money. I'm always saying, hey, because I did work in the central office for 3 years. I didn't like it. I miss the kids. And I know that there are lots of, at least in my county, lots of principals who turned in thousands, tens, 30, 40, $50,000 of money every year. And so I know that. And so about February, March, I always send up to the central office wish list of things that I want for my teachers, because they give you just so much money based off your ADM. But I know that there are people that don't spend their money. So I'm always asking for that and trying to get additional things for me. But I'm very aware of all my money, of what's going on. So I have to keep a really good eye on it. And I do a lot of things to get money for my school. If it's grants, I mean, I'm not gonna lie to you. People laugh at me because I say I even sell my teachers' blood, and I actually do. We do 3 blood drives, 3 blood connection, and you get money for blood. You get $10 per unit. I'm not gonna lie, and that's money that you can go in your general account that you can use for other things. So yeah, I do it because I do a lot of things for my staff. So you name it, I'm going to be all about the money.
And that kind of concludes my talk about that tonight. But I want you to The important thing to understand about fundraising at the local level, and this is again one of those that you know, this is about not losing your house. You know, I can't keep you from getting sued, but the point of this course is so that you win on the legal side. And but one of those things that you can do is we have administrators, sitting administrators in both North and South Carolina who make this mistake. They think that when they delegate the activity of fundraising to a group like the Booster Club or the PTO or the PTA, that they're done with it. It's out of my hair now. Oh boy, that was, you know, that's completely wrong. You can delegate the activity, but not their responsibility. You still have to account and you're still held accountable as the school administrator for what they do or don't do. You need to understand that the budget, you know, is where that you're going to get tripped up. You spend money inappropriately, you misspend federal money, you don't report your suspensions, and you get paid for kids who don't attend your school. You don't do that but once. You let your PTA run a fundraiser, you don't watch them, and they abscond with all the money. That will come back to you. They'll get you for failure to maintain fiscal accountability. I'm telling you, it will not go well for you. And so where most principals get tripped up is they spend money incorrectly, or they delegate fundraising to somebody else and don't maintain any kind of control on it, and then that comes home to roost. And remember, we're using this as public money. It's not like in a private. You're not an elected official. You don't have those protections. And it will cost you your job. So you need to understand. So you need to read through all those financial laws of how it, and look at your district on the rules on fundraising. Can't take money home at night. You know, tickets for those of you who are coaches or athletic directors. You got to do reconciliation with tickets. All of those kinds of things, so that there's never a question about the money. That has to be it. I'm going to switch gears quickly. We'll move to the relevant court cases. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on these. I'm just going to walk through them rather quickly for you. These are the relevant court cases, and we will see these in most of our we will see these in most of our classes. We'll see these in our court case studies. We always start with Brown, the Civil Rights Act of '65. North Carolina integrated in '66. I was in school when we integrated. What's important about that is North Carolina and South Carolina got out of capital funding for schools. Those of you who don't know, your local school district is responsible through bonds or other means of building and maintaining the buildings, the capital, including computer and technology in their building. There is no allotment that comes for that. And so the local, which is from property and business taxes, has to pay for the actual physical buildings of your school. There is no state money. We had a fellow in Charlotte who ran to get into General Assembly on the platform of I'm going to get more money from the state to build more schools. The state doesn't send money to build schools. So that didn't work out real well for Malcolm, but that was his platform. He didn't even understand that the state of North Carolina does not build school buildings for you. So that's what's important from there. The Elementary and Secondary Act of '65 is Titles 1 through 9 as we know them. Tinker versus Des Moines in '69 is due process. We'll cover that a lot. Kids have due process rights. Swan in '71, schools had to be integrated. That lasted for 30 years. We revisited Titles 1 through 9. They were reauthorized in '72. Our first foray into exceptional children happened in '74 with Public Law 94-142 that established that we would serve exceptional children in our schools, and that the federal government would send the money to do it. They do pay for your EC program. '75. There was a challenge from the elementary and secondary acts of '65, Titles 1 through 9, and that case was held in was the finding, or what was held is that that those titles were constitutional and they continued on. In North Carolina, our first foray into trying to differentiate pay or performance was in '84 with the basic education plan. We said that every kid gets a basic education, and somebody said, well, what does that mean? So we embarked upon a 5-year program to develop a state curriculum. It was called the Standard Course of Study, and to try to improve the standards of teaching through status 1, 2, and 3 teachers. The Standard Course of Study stuck around. Status 1, 2, and 3 didn't, because we refused to pay the people when they made those statuses. But we came up with a state curriculum by 1989 that defined what a basic education was. So then in '89, we started performance-based accountability, and it was called that, PBAP, which became the state ABC, or the state report card accountability system. Out of that grew the integrate and intercourse testing. I was a principal during this time when we started accountability. And then 94 through 98, we had the Leandro case, and we're going to have our financial case from this summer is the Leandro. We're going to compare, is the case legal to the Leandro standard, which was a challenge to the flat funding formula. Low wealth counties in North Carolina sued. They wanted to differentiate the amount of money that they got from the state, whereas everybody didn't get $8,000. That if you were in a high wealth district, you would get 6, and you would put 4,000 with it, local money, because you were local wealthy, and so in the end, your kids would get 10. You would take the 8 the state gave you, and you would take the 2 that you took from Charlotte Mecklenburg and add to a county like Hoke, so that everybody got 10 in the end. Leandro was decided that that would not happen. Full disclosure, I was on the Leandro team that was the low wealth team, trying to that legal team trying to get the move from a flat grant to a district power equalizing with a recapture provision, which basically what I just explained. Whereas in the end, we got the same, but the state said, nope, you do a basic education, and we're going to give you the same to start with, but we're not going to adjust it based on local wealth, how much more the local is willing to tax themselves and add to that per pupil. And so we're going to have a case study this summer where the superintendent wants to do a plan where he regulates the amount of money that schools get, where high needs kids get more and other kids get less. And you'll have to determine if that's legal under the Leandro standard. But that's the biggie. That's a national case on school funding. The lawsuit in 2001, Capuchione, ended Swan after 30 years, that said that schools no longer had a duty to integrate, and if they resegregated, they didn't have any duty to fix it. So we had 30 years of school integration in the United States of America, and it ran from 1971 to 2001. Also in 2001, we had No Child Left Behind. That was updated to ESA in 2008, but it's basically the same thing. It established that children needed highly qualified teachers, teacher retention efforts, which is the teacher working condition survey in North Carolina is our effort to improve working conditions and improve the facilities and what folks have to deal with every day. It also spoke to persistently dangerous, and that's due process. We'll cover that under discipline. Then in 2010, value added. We're looking at the impact that teachers have, what kids and courses they ought to be teaching. And then, in 13, 14, we started vouchers in charter schools, eliminated master's pay and eliminated career status. So that's kind of the big rocks of what's going on. The North and South Carolina school lotteries are the direct result of the outcome of the Leandro case. What was decided was they would not change the formula. They would start an education lottery, which of course we know is just a regressive tax on poor people. but we'd start a lottery and we'd generate all this money that we could give to these low wealth districts that they could do in a pork barrel, in block grants of money that they could do things with. There's not been a lot of money between the winnings and the company and the way it's gotten diverted. It really hasn't been of any help to low wealth districts. But that was how we got the lottery in Bible Belt country. State-run gambling we claimed that it would make up for all this money that the state doesn't give low wealth districts, that there would be all this money coming in like manna from heaven to fund all these local poor districts. It has not happened. But that's how, if anybody asks you how we got the lottery, it came out of Leandro. And so we're going to cover Leandro in depth this summer. All right, I'm looking at our time now. We've gone long tonight because it's our first night. We'll try to keep it a little shorter. Our two resident principals are going to finish tonight's session so I can catch my breath. I'm old. They're going to talk to you about facilities and what's important about those. So I'm going to turn it over to them now.
Okay, well, whether you're an AP or a principal, you definitely need to be very cognizant about facilities and aware of what you're responsible for. And so I want to talk on a few things tonight and then turn it over to Dr. Caton so she can talk about some things from her perspective. Dr. Lamb mentioned that you have to do a monthly fire drill, you have to do a twice monthly building inspection. And in the Google document, the Google folder that he's going to share with you, I have uploaded, or Dr. Caton help me with that. She's more of an expert on that than I am. But there is included in there a fire drill report, so you can see what that looks like. And there is also a fire inspection report, so you can see what that looks like as well, because you will have to be interacting with the fire marshal as he comes in and does inspections in your building. And so I just wanted you to see what that looks like. Dr. Lamb, can you make me a host so I can share a couple of things?
Okay, let me, this is that Google folder. I'm gonna see if it's gonna open up. It opened up for me earlier. I went ahead and opened it. And here's those documents. I'm gonna put this link, Dr. Caton has approved me to do that. I will put this link in, and it has what Dr. Maraglia was just talking about, this monthly fire drill report. I will share that with you. I will put that under tonight's session along with the video from tonight. I wanted to make sure that you understood that I would have, but I didn't know she wanted me to share all this with y'all, but now that she has said so, I will do that. So what I'm going to do is stop my share and I will go to participants. Let's see, I can find you, Dr. Maraglia, and go to more, and I have made you the host now.
Okay. All
You
right,
are now the host.
I'm going to just go quickly through a few documents that I'd like to point out to you that are going to be beneficial. One of the activities, if you've not already done that, one of the things that you're going to have to do, especially for your next discussion board, is the assessment inventory. And this is in your Blackboard shell, but it's also, I wanted to show it to you here, just so you have an idea of some of the things that you're going to be walking around your facility and observing. Because again, typically when you're a classroom teacher, you're thinking about what's going on in your classroom. You might notice some things as you're walking through the hallway. You might notice some things when you go to the restroom, but you're not really going around with something like this in hand, looking for safety issues, health issues, things of that nature. So one of the things you're going to do is you're going to go out and you need to observe your traffic and your traffic flow. And I would say definitely do this before school's out so you can see how the buses come in. Is it safe? Are they coming to the best location of the school? Do you have signage? Your carpool line, especially in elementary schools, the carpool line can just be such a headache. Take a look at that and look at it from a safety standpoint. Do you have enough people who are supervising what's going on in those different areas? You're also just going to survey outside. I know at my school, we have cameras everywhere, not just inside, but also outside, making sure that they're working. Notice where they are. So that way, if you have an incident to occur, you know that you've got a camera there that may have some footage. We had our athletic field house was broken into, but fortunately we had a camera out there, and that enabled the law enforcement to help us with that situation. So just some of the different areas that you're going to have to walk around and look at, make some notes on. I think you'll find this a very helpful activity, and I'm going to be interested to hear from you what kinds of things you saw and anything that was concerning to you and why that might have been. So make sure that you take some time with this document and go around your facility, and not just not just the inside, but the outside as well. If you are at a school where you have a playground or you have athletic fields, make sure you're taking a look at them as well. So that's one thing that I wanted to share with you. Another thing you have to remember is that school districts are responsible for not only maintaining schools, but they're also responsible for building new schools. And one of the documents that's included in this Google folder for you, I'm in Charlotte Mecklenburg Schools. So we're a very large school system, and during my tenure there, we have gone through years where we may have been opening 4 or 5 schools at one time. I mean, we've had some years that were just overwhelming. And our bond votes are usually very controversial within our community. And so I thought it might be interesting to you to see some of the bond projects that we have going on in our district right now. And it's building new schools, renovating old schools, or adding on to them. And so I've included that information there for you, just so you can understand what a school district has to deal with. In our district, in our building services, again, we're concerned about constructing new buildings. So we have people who are architects, and their job is to design the schools. We have people that their jobs are to have all the equipment and the furniture and things of that nature in the schools. But then we also have the maintenance department, and we have property managers who come around and meet with us at least once a month, if not more frequently than that. And so you need to get familiar with them. You need to know who they are. You need to know your building. So if you've got a problem, you can ask for help and get assistance with that, especially if you've got things that are safety issues. If you have a door that doesn't lock, or a window that doesn't close, or something like that that could cause access into your building, you need to know who to call for that, and you need to know how to make that a priority, because safety is a priority. Anything that could cause someone to get into your building, that's a problem, and you need to be able to know about that. Another thing I want to touch on briefly, because I want Dr. Caton to have her time as well. Something that we've had to all deal with this year is COVID, and that has put a different spin on things for everyone. We've never had to experience things like that. And even Dr. Lamb, when he talks about as long as he's been around, he's never had to deal with a pandemic. So
that's correct.
Something we had to think about this year when we started bringing children back into the building was sanitizing. I've done duty rosters, I've done supervision rosters, I've done all kinds of schedules. I've never had to create a cleaning schedule. I've done custodial schedules, but I've never had to do a sanitizing schedule. So one of the things that's in your Google folder is you can see what we did when we started bringing students back into the building. We had to be able to sanitize once a group of children left the classroom and moved on. And so this was just an example for you of what we had to do. And even with our 4 custodians, we even had to have some staff members get involved in order to get it all done, because it was just such a big job. So again, something we've never had to deal with, but this is something you have to do to run your school, to run your building. So you need to be familiar with things like that. And there's always going to be things that that's going to hit you that you're never going to have experienced. But The more you can get under your belt, the better prepared you're going to be to meet those things head on. Something else that I was going to share with you this evening as we talked about dealing with COVID, and this is also in the Google folder. When we had our return to in-person learning, we had to send out some information to our parents so that they could be prepared. We had never had to meet people at the buses and at the car rider line before to take temperatures. Dr. Caton's going to talk to you about how she had to take it even further, and she had to think about athletic events and graduation and things of that nature. At the middle school, we didn't have to worry about that because we didn't have athletic events. We're not allowed to have promotion ceremonies. Even at this point, we're still not allowed to do that. So we've not had to worry about things of that magnitude, but we did have to worry about how are we going to safely let our kids back in the building? How are we going to have school? How are we going to run things and keep our people safe? So this is, again, it's just some information that we put together at my school that I wanted to share with you. I know a lot of you have seen it from your own school, but from an administrator perspective, these are some things we've had to do to keep our facilities safe. And there's some other things that I've uploaded into our Google folder. And if you want to just take some time on your own to look through and see, I'm also going to upload a schedule that we did, a master schedule that we did when we, as a lot of you are, we're balancing right now remote and in-person learning. And I've heard a lot of people that are stressing out because they're having to do both at the same time within the same class period. We're not doing that. Our teachers have a remote class only. And when they have remote, they're only doing that. And when they have in-person, they're only doing that. So I'm going to share that with you as well, because I know that's been a huge burden for teachers. And I completely get that. I can't imagine having to do that. And we made sure that our teachers were not having to do that at the same time. They were only dealing with kids on the computer, or they were only having kids right there in the classroom. And so I'll share that with you, because some of you may not have been able to have a chance for your schedule to be like that. Dr. Caton, I'll turn it over to you because I know our time.
Okay, I talk fast, so I apologize if I talk too fast and you can't just tell me slow down. So I just wanted to go over a couple things. First of all, we at our school, we have students who are both virtual and are face-to-face. When we're planning all this was a big thing for us, was being able to get every single student. And let me just go and tell you, you're going to see some student names and things like that. I just ask that you just keep it to yourself, all that good stuff. The students' names, if they were riding the bus, what their choice was, face-to-face, all that, what the bus number was. And we had some students that were requesting face-to-face to come back. And so you see it here when they requested for us to come back, because we had this ongoing document of everything, because when you put it in Power Schools, you can't have the details like you want. So we moved all this, we put all this in this spreadsheet. So this is all of our kids that we had. We color coded them based off their level of what weeks they were going, or you see both is green and all that kind of stuff. And you can see all the different changes down here. Like if they changed a certain learning zone, they changed from week A to week B, all that. So that's big things that we've never had to plan for. So then, of course, once we get all that straight, then we had to plan for the school year. I'm very corny about a lot of my stuff, but I'm also very organized. So this is a reopening plan that we did, and we posted it on our Facebook, and we also showed it to our students. And this was everything about visitors, for what face-to-face instruction looked like. We also talked about what the school day would be like, that they had to have, they couldn't be dropped off before 8:30. They had to have temperatures checked, all that good stuff. They had to wear face masks, because everything was be clean. So we went through all that, like I said, on Facebook, as we posted it everywhere on our website, as well as went over it in classes. So then after that, I knew that I had to make sure that my teachers knew exactly what was going on. So this is a copy of our opening day presentation that I do with my staff. This is what they were required to do. They would have to require to be staff temperatures would have to be taken. It was going to be taken by TAs. Teachers were going to have to wipe down the desk in between classes. We were high school, so these students were transitioning. They were going to be eating breakfast and lunch in the classroom. So all this was written out for them exactly what they would have to do. So when they came back, they didn't have hopefully too many questions. But before all that happened, it was like, surprise, we're going to have graduation. So when we plan graduation, I'm very, step by step of everything. My graduation person who plans out, helps me with planning that graduation. We go as a detail as about how cars will come in, where every staff member will be stationed. You can see it says we have parking lot people where everybody else is, what's going on that day. These people must have radios about what's going on. And it specifically says, these are the teachers, this is what you're doing. And it just tells you everything. And we very detailed about everything that was going on. You can see teachers' names. This is where you're going to be stationed, and this is what you're going to do. So you had to think about all that. Well, in addition to thinking about all the duties that you had to have for graduation and making sure it's as basic and everything like that, you had to map out your football field. So I had to map out the football field, and this is where all the kids were, and I had to make sure they were spaced out. So I had to take measurements of my football field and then have my grid line here to make sure it was spaced out. I had to tell the county where I wanted the camera. I had to say this is midfield. And then where my stage was going to be, all that good stuff. And then, of course, I had to map out my home side. I knew that this many people, this many blocks could be. And I had to, you can see I had 119 families that could sit on this side. And then I had to map out my visitor side. So I had to find out what was the capacity of my football field and then map it out. You had to go as far as putting X's on the places for people to sit. So that's things that you never understood that you would have to do, but it was really important to be so specific to, or knowing details and being very detail oriented, so that you could be successful with that. I just want to quickly touch upon a teacher working conditions survey. There's a part underneath it that talks about facilities and resources. Of course, instructional materials are very important. This is actually my schools. You can see this is us, and then in comparison to the district and the state. It talks about cleaning of the rooms and sufficient resources, and is it environment clean and well maintained, adequate space, physical environment. And so we take this information, of course, and that's how we design some of our things that we have. Shoot, I've already gone out of what I need. So we have a checklist for our custodians, and that gets done weekly by our lead custodian. And that is here. So our lead custodian goes over a weekly checklist with all the custodians to see if they're doing what needs to be done. And then that leads to us, we have a county inspection, and this is our county inspection. This is a facilities inspection that's done by our county, and this gets done every quarter. So they tell us what our rating is on our cleanliness and things like that. And let's see, I think I have hit everything pretty fast. And I will say also fundraisers. Dr. Lamb briefly touched about fundraisers. This is our fundraiser approval reform. I only allowed clubs to have one fundraiser per semester. It has to be approved by me, and it has to be you only get 2 weeks. That's it. I do not allow any clubs or sports to overlap in fundraisers. And once I get proposed date, it goes on the school calendar, and everybody knows exactly when those fundraisers are. I don't think it's fair for one fundraiser to take away from another. And this is also one thing I was talking to you about my Charger Hub. This is very detailed for my school improvement plan. It links right to IndaStar. If you don't know what IndaStar is, our Charger One Stop, we just created a Canvas page with everything on it. Our, let's see, what else? Our bell schedules, our master schedule is up there, observation schedules, our class coverage schedules, our duty schedules, our gate duty directions, like what do you do when you're on gate duty? It's like a big old PowerPoint, but this is what you need to do. You can see that we're very methodical about what we do, and making sure everybody knows exactly what needs to be done. You can see safety drills, tornado drill. And one thing I will say, and Dr. Lamb has said it, but I'm going to say it again. I've always been, when I was going through my MSA, my professors always said 2 things will get you fired. Easy things, if somebody's looking for something easy to fire you on, is to see if you've done a tornado drill or a fire drill. And that's something very easy. If they really wanted to get rid of you, they could do. So I was really fast. I apologize.
No, Dr. Caton, thank you. I took too much time, but that's liable to happen. We'll try to stay on our time as best we can. Anything else, Dr. Caton, before you wrap up?
No, sir. I think I'm good.
All right. So as you can see from the experience in this room, we've gone from the time when I became an elementary principal where our biggest health concern was tooth cavities, swish and spit, making sure they took their little fluoride, that and head lice. That was the two big things when I was in elementary. Everybody didn't drive. There was no rule back then that you had to drive your children to school. They could ride the school bus. I don't know how in the world kids learn about sex if you don't let them drive the school bus, but that's how it works. Everybody's got to drive their kids to school now. We've gone from a time when nobody drove their kids to school and the only health crisis we had was cavities and head lice to where we are now. Now, I was a high school principal during the two seminal school shootings in America, both Columbine and Jonesboro, and the world changed those days in terms of safety, security, the planning that has to go on. Dr. Maraglia mentioned if you work in Charlotte, Mecklenburg, you're either building something new or you're under construction or you're under renovation. It changes your traffic patterns, the safety, the danger of all that stuff. Don't assume because your school's been there forever that the traffic pattern works or is safe, because a lot of old schools were designed in a time like when I was principal, when everybody didn't drive their kids to school. All of these things are new and different. They are evolving. COVID, all of these kinds of things are happening. And you've got to be planned and prepared if you're going to have school every day and have it safely and protect you and your family and your income and your career. There's 3 standards of negligence: misfeasance, malfeasance, and nonfeasance. Malfeasance, malpractice, malfeasance is you do something wrong and you know it's wrong, but you do it anyway. Nonfeasance, you didn't do anything and you should have. There are standards here, but planning and preparation. That's the notion here. Misfeasance, malfeasance, and nonfeasance. You did the wrong thing, but you didn't know it was wrong. Malfeasance, you knew it was wrong, you did it anyway, or nonfeasance, you just didn't do anything, and you should have. And that's what we're talking about. That nonfeasance part of malpractice, of negligence. You should have done these things. You got to be planned and prepared. All those things that Dr. Caton and Dr. Raglia just showed you, that's to meet that legal standard where I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing. Something was wrong, I'm fixing it. I've got a plan, I'm organized. That's what operations is about. We call it having school safely every day. That we can't get to our instructional program if we can't have school safely and well planned and organized every day. So it's more than about tooth cavities and head lice now, folks, unfortunately. But you're gonna you have the capacity to learn all this stuff, or at least learn enough to get you started, and you'll grow into the job. Questions you have for me, I will post their link under week 1. I'll post a link to their folder. You can see some of these things. I will also, now that I've explained it, I will go back on our weekly schedule and I will put in the links I will put in the reading that I want you to do. I didn't put that in specifically because I didn't want you to think that this is about reading this chapter. I want you to do those activities and you can do the companion reading. But every time I put the reading in first, the students think, well, all I thought I had to do was just read this stuff. No, I want you to go and do and ask and learn and get that link, that relationship built with your administrators that are helping you. It will stand you in good stead on how to run schools. We'll see you back next week at 7 o'clock. We'll try to get us down to maybe 90 minutes next week. But remember, these are summer classes and we have much fewer of them. And so they're going to run a little bit longer, but we want to make sure that we get that material out there to you in a way that you can understand. Anybody have any questions or anything for the good of the group before we go? I'm pleased that you're joining us this summer. We're glad you chose Gardner Webb, and we'll have a laugh or two if nothing else. We'll have a good time. So I will see you all next week at 7. Everybody be safe this week. Yes, William. Just call my cell and I'll answer it. All right.